Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the World's on Fire podcast. This is your unofficial announcer speaking. And the podcast will begin in earnest with a countdown of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And a gracious good evening to you and yours. This is your announcer for the World's on Fire podcast, dead President Kennedy. And I say to you that Donald Trump's a human Binky, a Natalie Hop, is a piece of work. But the question I pose to you is the president screwing his human Binky? Inquiring minds want to know. Be that as it may that as be. Here is your host for Facebook Live for the World's on Fire. Give it up for John McIntyre. Woohoo! Thank you so much, dead President Kennedy. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America, Mr. and Mrs. Pittsburgh, and all the ships at sea. This is indeed the World's on Fire podcast. Straight ahead, Trump gets his panties in a bunch over criticism of his blonde little human Binky. Guess who isn't crazy about Binky Girl? Hint, she's from Slovenia. Why didn't anyone get the security clearance for the Binky Girl for an entire year? Trump cozies up to Kim Jong-un, and Trump's rape victim finally gets paid. I am your resident nattering nabob of negativism, live from Baby Boomer Central. What do you say? Let's rock and roll. So Trump used to be the best at nicknames and ridicule language, and he's lost his touch. He's neither clever nor funny anymore. The days of low-energy Jeb and little Marco are far behind us. Now we're left with Trump comparing Georgia Senator Jon Ossoff with Pee Wee Herman. It's a joke that could work if Ossoff looked anything like Pee Wee Herman. He does not, and that's what makes it stupid and unfunny. The Guardian tells us that Senator Ossoff told a crowd that Trump doesn't want to do the job and instead wants to build his ballroom and travel with Natalie on their apparently defenseless flying palace gifted by the Emir of Qatar. The reference, of course, was to Natalie Harp, the president's executive assistant, fueling scrutiny of her perceived closeness to Trump. So it would be a perfectly legitimate question to ask the president, hey, what did you think of the senator's comments? CNN's Kristen Holmes did that very thing and was later roasted on the official White House website. Speaking for Trump, someone wrote that it was a disgusting and inhumane question. This is on the official White House website. The White House Post went on to criticize her for taking a cheap shot at a staffer, adding, "These scumbags are the lowest of the low." The Post continued, "Someday your children will come across your disgusting and inhumane question. They will be sickened and embarrassed to have a parent be so callous and vindictive. It's quite troubling." Do you believe these sick fucks lecturing reporters on someday your children will be ashamed of you? It just goes to show that they really got to Trump because he really loves his little Binky and he wants her to not to be touched, and he thinks it's unfair that she's being criticized and mentioned, and he can go fuck himself and the stupid orange horse he rode in on. Pardon me. Never before has there been an administration that regularly and obnoxiously criticizes people, public officials, past presidents, judges whose lives have been put in danger thanks to Trump, you name it. So when MAGA morons get their panties in a bunch about someone they think is just an innocent little puppy being called up publicly, well, it's laughable. The old rules do no longer apply. They're out the door, douchebags, and it is open season on MAGA morons. Take Trump's personal assistant, just singled out by Senator Ossoff, the aforementioned Natalie Harp. She's called the human printer because she prints out flattering articles for Trump to read, or for her to read him aloud since he doesn't read. Reporter Maggie Haberman just nicknamed her Trump's human Binky in an attempt to explain why he abandoned Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, not to mention Marco Rubio, to the airplane he thought the terrorists might bomb, as opposed to the airplane he snuck off to with the human Binky in tow. MAGA muttonheads think Natalie is off limits. I intend to harp about Natalie every chance I get. Do I think Trump is fucking her? Maybe. She's definitely has a bad case of Bullwinkle Mussolini hero worship, and that, in and of itself, is beyond revolting. Now, rawstory.com tells us that Natalie has ruffled some important feathers. Melania, for example, is locked in a behind-the-scenes standoff with the 35-year-old aide Harp over access to the president. She wants access to her husband, but Natalie the Binky is in the way. This is all according to Donald Trump biographer Michael Wolff. What else does Michael Wolff has to say? Well, Harp has become a near constant figure at Trump's side, which Wolff says has effectively pushed the First Lady out of her own husband's daily orbit. Quote, Melania, whose appearances with her husband were carefully negotiated and choreographed, would not show up if Harp was around, Wolf wrote on Substack. Since Harp was always around, Melania never was, appearing with her husband only in the last week of the campaign. A Daily Beast analysis found that Melania appeared publicly just 47 times in 2025 after the January inauguration and only 38 times through the first 7 months of 2026. Harp's efforts to stay close to Trump have reportedly bordered on the extreme. When his campaign relocated from Palm Beach to Bedminster Golf Club in 2023, she wasn't given a room, but she slept in a maid's quarters anyway, later moving into the women's locker room just to be nearer to her beloved Mr. Trump. According to Regime Change, the book I just read by the New York Times reporter Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan, Harp also left Trump love letters in his personal spaces, including one reading, quote, "You are all that matters to me." I think I just threw up a little bit in my mouth. No, correction, I threw up quite a bit in my mouth. We'll be keeping an eye on these two lovebirds. It could add up to the magical combination of two Binkies, and one of them being very tiny and orange. Hello, Lynn Ransom, Mark Howe, Pat Howe, the whole hee-haw gang is watching the show and commenting at will. You are watching The World's on Fire. President Dumbfuck has been known for doing things illegally, unofficially, on the fly, haphazardly, incompetently, pick your favorite descriptive term. Little things like the disaster that is the reflecting pool. But things like the disaster there's a bigger disaster, of course, and it's the war in Iran. Everything he touches turns to shit. So it is no surprise that someone very close to the president spent an entire year without getting a security clearance, because why would you need a security clearance to be extremely close to the president of the United States? And you guessed it, once again, we're talking about the human Binky Natalie Harp. Natalie refused to file the relevant forms for unknown reasons, according to two unnamed sources cited by MS Now. Do you believe the fucking arrogance of this little blonde twatwaddle? It was only when the White House counsel's office raised the issue, and then Trump himself became involved, that Harp filled out the paperwork for a federal background investigation and was belatedly granted clearance. Norm Eisen, a former White House ethics czar, said that it is shocking that an aide who has the potential exposure to the nation's most sensitive secrets reportedly went without a security clearance for so long. Treating access to confidences as a casual job perk is an outrageous way to handle our national security. End of quotation. These people care nothing about protocol because pro has nothing to do with these douchebags who are in a permanent state of amateur hour. You are watching the World's on Fire podcast brought to you by Venmo. Venmo me some money, won't you? At John-McIntyre-27, help out the cause. I do this for free most of the time, but a couple of bucks help here and there. Hello, Mark Howell. Hello, Susan Gotti. And brought to you by Ruby's Winehouse, the best damn wine bar in Allegheny County. It's in Coriopolis. Ruby'sWinehouse.net. Check it out. And now, Marco Rubio, water moment. Ladies and gentlemen, the World's on Fire continues. You know those crazy posts and memes that Trump posts in the middle of the night? Trump as Jesus healing the sick, for example. Do you ever wonder if it's actually Trump who posts those? Well, it might be, or it might be his official surrogate poster. You guessed it, the twat waffle who's the talk of the town, Natalie Harper. In fact, reportedly, she will order up something like the Jesus meme from ChatGPT, get Trump's approval, and then post the nonsense for all the world to see and shake our heads at. The New Republic reporting that even the president's inner circle is tired of his erratic late-night social media binges and the White House aide responsible for them. Her work has included the posts that depicted Barack and Michelle as apes and an AI of Trump as Jesus. Trump took down both posts after they spurred immense public backlash. In the former instance, Trump claimed he did not see the section of video that racistly mocked the former president and the first lady. The frustration lies partly in the perceived chain of command. Harp does not share her drafts with anyone else in the White House but the president, claiming that she works for him and only him. And that's prompted tensions between Harp and some of the federal employees affected by her incendiary writing, such as the Chief of Staff's office. Well, we talked about the lovely and talented Melania, did we not? Here's an interesting fun fact. Hello, Jim Dunmeyer. I think that her name is Ms. Slurp and Burp. Well, whatever you say. Hi, Susan Gotti. Melania is not a popular first lady. You thought people didn't like Hillary? The New Republic reports that in the summers of their own husband's second terms, Hillary had a plus 25 favorability. Not great, but not bad. For the record, Laura Bush had a 46, plus 46, and Michelle Obama had a plus 42. You want to take a guess as to where Melania's poll numbers stand? Minus 13. That's below circle drain levels. Quote, Melania Trump is breaking records in a way that you don't want to break records, historically awful, says Harry Enton on CNN. He's an historian. He also echoed her callous, I really don't care, do you, jacket, the one that she wore to visit children in detention centers in 2018. Quote, the American people really don't care for her. You think? Naturally, with any MAGA figure, conspiracy theories abound. The speculation about the First Lady has existed as long as the Trump era itself. The theories have always worn tinfoil hats. Is she a body double? Is Melania an extraterrestrial? Is she a Russian spy? My own personal take, she's a bionic fembot Russian spy, and she will murder Trump with her machine gun boobies on Fifth Avenue before the end of this term. And remember the out of the blue news conference in April when she panicked before the White House press corps, and she spoke cryptically and acidly of lies circulating about me and Jeffrey Epstein. They are lies, I tell you. These people are corrupt, they're disingenuous, they're dangerous, and most of all, they're just plain fucking weird. Oh, these people, David Roth and Jim Nemeyer, are fucking weird. How do you know that President Trump is an imbecile? Let me count the ways. Here's a simple lesson that this simpleton has never seemed to learn. Be nice to your friends, be cool to your enemies. And by cool, I mean frosty. South Korea is our friend. North Korea is our enemy. Get it, you big fat blob of orange goo? Nope, he's too goddamn stupid to comprehend the obvious. The idiot tried to cancel joint military exercises with South Korea. They went on because they were already pretty much underway, but at the last minute he tried to cancel them. And he wrote this on Truth Social. Based on my very good relationship with Kim Jong-un of North Korea, I am not happy with the fact that the United States has, long ago, agreed to participate in joint military exercises with South Korea. He said it sent a signal that was totally inappropriate and hostile. This is a murderous regime. Enemies of the state disappear left and right in North Korea. They have nuclear weapons despite our wishes to the contrary. Why does the orange moron love murderous despots and dictators? Because he's always wanted to be one and he's still trying to pull off that despite our democratic form of government. How weird is it in the first place that he and Kim were exchanging so-called love letters? That is fucking weird and it is stupid. And as you know, he's an incompetent moron. And if you don't get that, you're an even bigger moron. Not to put too fine a point on it. Gary Smith, another dumbass. I don't know to whom you're referring, but if you're referring to the president, you're absolutely right. And now with a word about Ruby's Winehouse, here is the First Lady of the United States, Melania Trump. Hello, I am the Melania, and I do not like the Natalie Harp. She is a stinky binky, if you ask me. And I don't like anything about harp. There is a beer, it is Irish beer, it is called harp. I don't like it. My least favorite Marx brother is the Harpo Marx because of the harp in his name. I do not like the harp, but they do not serve the harp at the Ruby's Winehouse in Coraopolis, just outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. They serve the best wine, they serve the seasonal cocktails, they serve the fantastic Italian food at the Ruby's Winehouse in the Coraopolis, right outside Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Here is the thing about the service. Pardon me. The service at the Ruby's Winehouse in the Coraopolis is first rate, but it is classy, but it is not pretentious. As opposed to me, I am pretentious, but not at all classy. Whereas my husband is just a fucking idiot, as you probably know. So do yourself a favor. Check out the Ruby's Winehouse in the Coraopolis, but do not order a harp. They do not have it, and we should ban all things harp. Thank you very much. Now back to John McIntyre and the World's on Fire, the podcast. Thank you, First Lady Melania Trump. You know, of course, that Donald Trump and his evil administration are the biggest threat to the First Amendment in the history of the country. It is only fitting, then, that the ABC television network is suing Trump's FCC, charging the Trump administration had attacked ABC's speech on multiple occasions, including the stories its journalists report and the viewpoints its network programs air. Over time, these attacks have escalated into express demands that ABC be stripped of its broadcast licenses because of its speech, end of quotation. The government is trying to take away broadcast licenses because it doesn't like Jimmy Kimmel or The View. The government is cracking down on speech it doesn't like, and it is a classic, clear First Amendment violation. God bless ABC. There's been way too much capitulation. Universities and law firms folding like an umbrella, to coin a phrase. Disney's recent appointed CEO, Josh D'Amaro, signaled earlier that the company is prepared to battle the government. We're very principled on this, he said. We're going to stand up for what we believe is journalistic integrity. And we're not going to be told how to run that side of our business. That's what I'm talking about, ABC. Easy as 1, 2, 3. That was my favorite Jackson 5 song, for the record. Another reason I hate Melania, I love Harpo, my favorite Marx. Well, how about that, Pat Howell? Suckers and losers. Suckers and losers. That's what Donald Trump called soldiers who voluntarily enlisted, according to former Chief of Staff John Kelly. You may recall that. Because if you're not a pussy-chasing, malignant, narcissist, pathological liar strictly out for yourself, you don't understand how the game is played, how the game of life is played in all of Trump world. So while it may sicken you that Trump and Secretary Pete couldn't give a flying fuck about the mental health of the sailors aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln, it shouldn't surprise you. When sailors literally start jumping overboard because they can't take it anymore, you know there's something bad going on. Their deployment is longer than any other modern naval deployment without a port call. That means ordinarily sailors get to go ashore and rest and refresh from time to time. But not these poor suckers and losers. The Navy Times and the Stars and Stripes have largely confirmed reports of the Lincoln's shitty conditions. They describe shortages of supplies, shortages of water, plumbing problems. Several sailors have indeed attempted to leap from the ship, prompting Democratic lawmakers to demand answers from the Pentagon. These assholes in charge do not care one whit about one single individual who volunteered to take a bullet for you and me, because they are disgusting, self-centered douchebags who literally have no idea what the word empathy means. Plus, why should we care about a bunch of suckers and losers? How did these heartless creatures become the motherfuckers in charge? Oh, that's right. In the United States of America, we're surrounded by idiots. Mark Howe just Venmo'd me money mid-podcast. Thank you so much, Mark Howe. And thank you, Bruce Buffalini. And I'll thank you both again. Bruce Buffalini with a very generous contribution last time around. We're having Buffalini. Trump's a stupid weenie. You're watching the World's on Fire. Marcy Kronzek. How does Trump get away with being outright racist? Wants to name the ship, right, Trump instead of the black hero that it was named after. I don't know. They're blatantly racist and sexist, like nobody's business, like nobody's ever seen before. Racist and sexist like nobody's ever seen before. And so far, there seem to be no consequences. Here's somebody who doesn't like Trump, who had to suffer the consequences, but is getting some of her just desserts. Imagine being E. Jean Carroll. First, you get raped by Trump. Then you get defamed by Trump. And then you sue twice successfully, once for defamation and once for battery and defamation. And you win, and you still can't collect the money you have coming to you from the fat tangerine rapist. Proving that even a blind squirrel finds an acorn every now and again, the Supreme Court refused to hear Trump's appeal for the defamation suit. And so the rape victim will finally get her hands on $5 million owed to her by the rapist. A rapist who was elected president of the United States, even though he bragged about grabbing women by the pussy. The court did not explain its decision, and there were no noted dissents. It seems that even the right-wing nutbags on the Supreme Court are reluctant to stand up for the rights of an adjudicated rapist. A jury determined in 2023 that Trump was liable for sexually abusing Carroll, a former Elle magazine columnist, in the dressing room of Bergdorf's department store in the 1990s, and that he defamed her in 2022 with a social media post by calling her allegations a hoax and a lie and saying that this woman is not my type. Remember that stupidity, as if it would be okay to rape somebody if they were your type. In 2024, following a separate trial, Trump was ordered to pay $83 million in damages to Carroll for defaming her in 2019 when he denied her allegations of sexual abuse. That case is still being appealed. This just in, Donald Trump is an evil, awful, horrible, horrible human being. By the way, an update on the USS Abraham Lincoln. It is indeed on its way to a port of call finally, or so it has been reported. This is the World's on Fire podcast. Venmo me a couple of bucks at John-McIntyre-27. Soon we will have word about the next political comedy talk show, probably in October, probably at the Brillo Box, but I haven't nailed it down yet, neither the show date or the guest list. But stay tuned for exciting announcements about the next World's on Fire live on stage show. And get your questions ready for Ask John Anything, won't you? Won't you? Won't you? Here's another example of how plainly ridiculously absurd Donald Trump often is. And everybody, literally everybody, recognizes the absurdity and the silliness of it all, but apparently we're just getting used to it. You already know there was zero vandalism in the reflecting pool. You know the obese orange idiot still insists that there was, with zero evidence. And we all know the vandalism charges are absolute bullshit from a guy who can't admit he hired an incompetent contractor who fucked everything up from day one. Well, get this, from the insult to injury department, now the damn near dead douchebag is blaming vandals for spots of dead grass on the National Mall near the World War II Memorial, the same area where the president hosted crowds for a 4th of July celebration. So Trump made this claim without providing evidence or explaining why he believes vandals damaged the grass. He shared a photo showing an area by the World War II Memorial with patches of brown and dead grass across much of the sprawling turf that was previously full of green grass. But the grass is dead because that's where Trump installed the stage and the stands for the stupid 4th of July fight. My only question, is he just blaming others for his own stupidity once again, as he always does, or has he actually lost his mind and he doesn't understand what really happened? He actually believes phantom vandals exist? Quit picking on the president. His ear is still healing. Well, Jim, that's an excellent point. Thank you to Susie Neff. Thank you to Susie Neff who came out to the storytelling show. And thanks to everybody who came out to the storytelling show 2 weeks ago. Rick Seaback was great. Natalie Bensavinga was great. Bethany Hallam was great. And Susie gave me this miniature Jewish space laser. See that? It's a compact Jewish space laser. On the other hand, if it's a gargantuan task you face, there's still the old Jewish space laser. This is Bernie Sanders. I can give you an authentic George Soros Jewish space laser. Just dial 1-800-JEW-LASER. That's 1-800-JEW, L-A-Z-R. This broadcast is partially brought to you by Pizza Chef Kevin at Driftwood Oven in Lawrenceville. Here is the amazing chicken pesto pizza. It's not just good, it's fucking good. Chicken pesto pizza. Chicken pesto pizza from Driftwood Oven and Pizza Chef Kevin. It's not just good, it's fucking good. Wouldn't be a classic World's on Fire podcast without the famous Bud Dwyer impression. Bud Dwyer, take 2. Thank you, Bruce Buffalini, for your very generous Venmo contribution. Thank you, Mark Howe, for your during the show Venmo contribution. Both are much appreciated. Paul Skeens had another mediocre performance, and that may be putting it too kindly for the Pittsburgh Pirates. I'm fascinated by what happened to him. I'm fascinated to see if he can turn it around. I still didn't understand. Did he get fat? Did he get cocky? Are both true? Is he fucking Livy Dunn too much and taking his eye off the ball, to use a baseball metaphor? I don't know. The other interesting thing that happened to me this week is, as you may have seen, I cut a video and I did an imitation of a sheep. And it was designed to ridicule Trump supporters. And it was a Trump supporter, who is, of course, one of the sheep, trying to rationalize supporting the rapist, racist, malignant narcissist. So it was like, I support the racist, rapist, malignant narcissist. Okay. I did a sheep video a couple of weeks ago, got a few thousand hits. This time, with this sheep video, I put it all over all the websites that I always post the podcast on. And it's up to 30,000 views, which is big for a little old podcaster like me. But because so many people saw it, that meant shitloads of Trump supporters also saw it. And I'm just dumbfounded and dumbstruck all over again by how fucking stupid they are. Just a couple of quick examples. One of them said to me, John, just give me one thing that you think Trump has done wrong. I'm like, said he wouldn't do forever wars, got into a forever war. Said he'd fix the economy's in shambles. Said he'd lower gas prices are up. Oh yeah, there's that one thing from the first term where he tried to overthrow the government and destroy democracy in the United States of America. And of course, we could all go on all day about everything. Enriching himself unethically and possibly illegally because of his public position, taking advantage of his public position. Insider trading, for crying fucking loud. Guy writes back, most of those he had nothing to do with. I'm like, you're fucking kidding me. He had everything to do with all of them. They're literally all his fault, largely at any rate. So I just feel like, are you brain dead? What do you mean he had? And the other one said, you don't understand how government works. What the fuck does that mean? And by the way, as I foolishly, because sometimes it's dumb to argue with these people, I pointed out that in half a dozen cities in this country, I covered government and politics. I was a state treasurer's press secretary in Rhode Island. I worked for the city of Pittsburgh for 4 years. Shit, I worked at the sewage plant for the city of Kankakee, Illinois when I was in college. I know something about how government works. But that's, and they're just, some of them are illiterate. They're all homophobic. They all accused of being me a Muslim because there's a stereotype about Muslims that is not true, by the way, that they like to fuck goats. So I got a lot of homophobic slurs. And I'm like, do you start out homophobic or do you join MAGA and they teach you to be a homophobe? The level, some of them I would just write, would you please learn how to write a decent sentence before you try to insult me? Because I can't even make out how this insult works because you're illiterate. I want some credit for the Venmo. I'm sitting next to Mark Howell. Pat Howell, you get every bit as much as credit for the Venmo as Mark Howell. God bless Mark Howell and Pat Howell. How. How. And thank you, Bruce Buffalini, having Buffalini. He's nobody's type. Yuck, I know, Pat Howell, that's gross. Thank you, Pat Howell and Mark Howell. Bob Ben, it ain't easy being in a cult. No, it ain't. I would imagine that. I'm so glad we had this time together just to have a laugh, ha 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 ha, and sing a song. Seems we just get started, and before you know it, comes the time, it's time to load my bong, bong, bong. Do you have any questions for Ask John Anything? Not much time left in this particular podcast. Oh, as you know tonight, as you Pittsburghers know at any rate, on KDK Channel 2 CBS, the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Pittsburgh Steelers take on the New York Jets. And Will Howard will start, and Drew Aller will start the second half. Mason Rudolph will not play. He apparently would appear to be the first string backup. And of course, Aaron Rodgers won't play either. He might play a little bit next week, the third and last final preseason game. We still have a fake Hulk Hogan in the Blairsville area. Okay. Did you attend Cannabis Fest? David, I meant to, and then, like a typical pot user, I forgot. Now, I remembered, so I drove by it, and that's when the heavens opened up and the rain started, and everybody fled Cannabis Fest. Did you go to, I assume you did go to Cannabis Fest, David Roth. I'll go next year. Go Cubs, says Bob Ben. The Pittsburgh Pirates play the Los Angeles Dodgers at 10:10 Eastern Time tonight, as they continue on their seemingly impossible effort to turn everything around and somehow weasel their way into a playoff wild card thing. Joe Gotti Jr., who would that be? Who would who be? Enough John time. Can we make this shout about my birthday tomorrow? Jim Dunmeyer. Happy birthday to Jim Dunmeyer. Happy birthday, Jim Dunmeyer. A week from Sunday is the celebration of life for Patrick McBride, recently deceased a wonderful spouse of Dawn McBride, at the Priory Hotel. I intend to attend, but that's not for until a week from Sunday. But those of you who knew the McBrides and are interested, look at Dawn's Facebook page and all the information is there. Gigi Gerben, have a great weekend to you. Thank heaven for little girls. I know Susan Blairsville's Hulk Hogan. I don't know what that means either. Sometimes I just read shit aloud and then I realize that I shouldn't have because I don't know what the fuck it means. Any other questions for Ask John Anything? As you can see, Jack Kennedy continues to have my back in the World's on Fire podcast, along with John Paul, George, and Ringo. You know, I wrote it's getting better all the time, and John said, it couldn't get much worse. And that's how we wrote together. By the way, I attended Cyril Wecht's spouse passed away a week ago. I attended her ceremony on Wednesday. I saw Ben Wecht running around being a good son, helping to organize everything, and David Wecht. And the other, his older brother spoke, but I don't think I've ever met him. But he had an interesting speech and a fascinating content. And then David Wecht told some hilarious anecdotes, one of which is that both Cyril and Sigrid were in the army. And one of Cyril's superior officers was trying to fix up Cyril and Sigrid. So Cyril was a captain. He was a higher rank than Sigrid. And he summoned her to his office, apparently at the behest of his superior officer. As David pointed out, that might not be kosher in today's army. I don't know if you get to summon someone of lower rank than you to your office because you'd like to hit on her. Anyway, in their case, things worked out happily ever after. And rest in peace, Sigrid Wecht. But at least she's joined Cyril. And maybe they're playing. I'm told they were incredible tennis doubles, so maybe they're playing tennis in the great beyond. You stay safe too, Shelley Wolf. Oh! Oh, oh, oh! Any other questions for Ask John Anything? The Pittsburgh Steelers, ha! The game starts at 7 o'clock tonight, so just in a few minutes. I still have some time to sit out on the deck and smoke and vape some marijuana of the medical persuasion. Have some more vino, ha! Okay, I think I'm running out of bullshit. Hard to believe I know. Any other questions for Ask John Anything? Thank you, Pat Howe. Thank you, Mark Howe. Thank you, Bruce Buffalini. Venmo. It's 6 hours of sports tonight, napping at halftime. Oh, you're going to stay up to watch the Pirates, Mark. How about that? Any other questions or comments? Time is ticking away. We're about going to shut the fuck up. Night to you, Marky Mark. Whoop, 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 whoop. James Mark, never too late to file a sexual harassment claim. I'll keep that in mind. Pat, bye-bye to you. All right. Lord willing and the quick don't write. Well, I'm not sure I'm going to be back next week. Soon I'll be doing it every week like clockwork like I always do. And maybe next week I'm enjoying some of the summer fucking off. So we'll see. I'll let you know during the week whether I'll be back next week. If I'm not back next week, I'll definitely be back the following week, which I believe is Labor Day. So if you missed the beginning of the rant and you want to see it, I will be posting this on my page and many other Facebook pages throughout the land. I'm also going to post this one on my YouTube page. Lynn Ransom, goodbye to you. Good to see you. Annie Cosmides, you have a good weekend too. So Lord willing and the quick don't rise. I'll be back in the near future. Ruby'sWinehouse.net. Check them out. Jim Dunmeyer, happy birthday to you. And thanks again, everybody, to you. So see you next time. Same bat time, same bat channel will be there. Aloha.